Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's show. Welcome to Blunt Force Trauma, where we hit you with the truth with blunt force that leaves you traumatized. Today we got Bunky with us, and we're going to be talking about in this three-part series, all on Antarctica. First part we're going to discuss is the history of Antarctica, and we're going to kick it off with Bunky right now, and he's going to fill us in on a little bit about the history of Antarctica.
Well, you can go way back to the time of Columbus. He's reported to have a map that showed Antarctica without ice. And it was a map called the Perry-Reese map. And he used it on one of his voyages. I don't think it was the first, but it might have been the second or third. And there was another map just like that. And the map had a focal point in an area right around Alexandria, Egypt. And it was a pretty good map. The shoreline looks pretty good, like they believe it is today. Anyhow, there was Polynesian myths or stories about how they used to go down to Antarctica when there was no ice. That's another one. In the Middle East, there's a story about Sumer, the area of probably what's Iraq today or something, somewhere around there, about that their ancestors came from a land that froze over. And they called the land, the whole continent, they called it Shu. And there was a city inland called Shu City, and the continent was divided into 5 countries. Okay, getting into newer history, or recent history, 1938, the Germans went there to an area called Queen Maud Land, and they renamed it New Schwaben Land. And the reason they named that is because Hitler thought he was a reincarnation of this ruler called Barbarossa. Well, Barbarossa ruled a country called Schwabenland, and it's part of Germany. And so they thought, it's a new land, and we're gonna start a new culture there, colony or whatever. And basically, they built a submarine base for their U-boats. That's what they call their submarines. And then they found a big cavern that was frost-free, that was heated by thermal springs. And they built stuff in there, and they brought down all their experimental projects.
Now, there's a lot of active volcanoes that are going on in this region as well.
That's right.
And before the ice that came, Antarctica was basically a desert.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, it's still called the desert. It's called the desert where it's freezing weather desert. And it doesn't snow there very much at all. Mm-hmm. It very seldom snows anywhere in Antarctica except along the coast. Anyhow, the Nazis built this base, and they used a pre-existing cavern that was thermally heated, and so they brought their experimental stuff, like I said, down there. One of the experimental things was a device called the Bell, which turned into be the conventional-looking classic flying saucer.
Yes, and we've all heard about the Kecksburg, Pennsylvania Bell that crashed there. And for America's standards, we're talking about, this happened some time ago where there was a crash supposedly that happened in Kecksburg, Pennsylvania, that had to do with this Nazi Bell as a reverse engineered project that America got when we divided up the scientists, between us and the Russians.
Yeah, after World War II.
Yes.
The ones that were brought into America, it was Operation Paperclip is what it was called.
Yes.
And they brought in a Werner von Braun, and he was one of the best rocket scientists ever to exist.
Right.
And he did a lot of stuff for NASA.
Yes, he did.
But anyhow, the Germans expanded this thing and had it pretty big, and it was supposed to be a place where the Fuhrer could go if the war didn't turn out good. Well, the war didn't turn out good, but before it ended, they were able to get a lot of their technology down there. A lot of their flying craft technology and other technology too. They had a lot of stuff. The Germans were no idiots, so they had a lot of stuff. And the things they brought down there, and they were able to, even after the war ended, they were able to still use their U-boats. And they were seen around Argentina and places. Ships' captains were reported seeing a German U-boat still floating around months after the war ended. So the British wanted to find out what's all these stories about the Germans still being around. And so, since the British had a base on Antarctica, they got a group at their base to go down there and check it out. And they had rumors report where the Germans were seen from in Antarctica. So they went down there by ice tractors, and they found an opening, a tunnel system. And they had a party going through the tunnel system. I don't know, it was 10 or 15 people or whatever. And he left a couple out by the ice tractors to watch those, just in case. And they went in miles and miles in these tunnels. And they found a big, giant cavern with the Germans working on stuff. And it looked like an ant colony. And they were there for a while, and then the Germans noticed them and chased them out. And a bunch of them got killed and things like that. So only 3 of them departed the tunnel system. And they got back on the ice tractors and got the heck out of there. So they told the Americans, or the Americans found out through intelligence what had happened. And so the Americans, a year later, put together a fleet rather, of ships.
With Mr. Byrd?
Yeah, with
Yes.
Admiral Byrd commanding it, and there was like an aircraft carrier, and there was troop ships, and there was thousands and thousands of troops. I mean, they were going to do something serious business down there. But by the time they really got to the place, just before they got to where they were going, they were attacked by flying aircraft that looked like flying saucers.
Right.
And
That were far superior than
Yes.
the aircraft or the equipment that we were coming with at that time.
Yeah, way far superior.
Right. They could fly like pole to pole in
No
no
time at
no
all.
time at all.
Yeah. Admiral Byrd even said as much. And anyhow, they wiped out at least 5 aircraft. And I don't know I don't know if they sank a ship or not. But the Americans turned around and beat feet and got out of there. And they didn't go back. The story is, or the rumor is, that they made a deal with the Germans that they wouldn't attack Antarctica if the Germans didn't attack America. So, and Eisenhower knew a little bit about this too.
So basically, this is news saying that, hey, the Nazis, they lost the war, but did they really lose? I mean, they just picked up shop and went somewhere else, didn't they? Basically, went to Antarctica and set up a base there. And basically, there's a lot of mystery, lore, and things going on there. And we're going to cover all that in these 3 parts. But right now, we're just giving an overview of the history, Don. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a pretty good overview right there.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
It pretty much gives us an idea. When Admiral Byrd went down there, and basically they had it out. They had a little war going on there, basically, with these craft that were flying around.
Yeah.
And, there's lots of names known as the Vril or
Vamana aircraft.
the Amana, the Amana aircraft.
Vamana, yeah.
Yep. Vamanas, yes. Vamanas, yes.
That's an Indian word.
Yep, that's the Indian.
Sanskrit or something.
Yes, that's India.
Yeah.
Absolutely, they were known as the Vamanas, and there's several bases now that are there as well. But I mean, this was where the Nazis went to. This is where they took their technology and hid out and went to do ungodly things after that. I mean, and it's all being hidden there. And right now there's countries from all over the earth that are there that own pieces of land there.
It's cut up like a pizza pie.
Yes, it is.
So the different countries have a different base, and then somehow they've got it so nobody attacks anybody else.
Right. They're all sharing the technology amongst one another, okay? That's really what it comes down to. There's some things that are underneath the ice there that are anomalous. They've given off a magnetic pulse at least 300 miles wide. They know that it's underneath the ice. They know that it's there on the ground. They know that something is big down there going on, okay? We're going to cover that in part 2 and 3, but right now we're just giving an overview of some of the history of Antarctica and some of the things that you probably have already heard. Most of you have heard of Richard Byrd.
Yeah.
Yeah, Admiral Byrd,
Yeah.
that took like several ships and planes and went on this voyage to establish a United States naval base there. That's basically what they were going to do. Is they were going to go explore, and they were going to establish a United States naval base there, and that's basically what they set out to do.
Well, they didn't get that part done right away.
No, they didn't get that part done right away at all, did they? No.
No. Anyhow, eventually they did. They got based down there. At least one. I don't know. There's probably several. I think more than one. The continent is as big as the United States and Mexico combined, excluding Alaska.
And there is a thing called the no-fly zone. You can't fly over either pole, the North or the South Pole, which is quite alarming when you start to think about it. Why can't we fly over that? What is there that they don't want you to see? Could it be an entrance into the inner Earth? I mean, have you heard of Agartha? That's a whole other subject. Agartha is thought to be a place that's inside of the inner Earth, and that's another story we can get to at another time. But right now we're just
related to Shambhala.
Yeah.
It's another town or city underneath the Earth somewhere.
Sure. But right now, Bunk's just going to finish up with a little bit more of the history on Antarctica, and then watch part 2, and we're going to get into breaking down some things and giving you some things like, we're going to talk about maybe the potentiality of viruses being underneath the ice. Could there be some viruses that are under there that could potentially be, a plague-like epidemic?
Devastating.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we're talking about